If my people, Bible reading, part 86, book of Joshua, and we are in chapter 11, somewhere around 15, verse 15. As Yahweh commanded his servant Moses, so Moses commanded Joshua, and Joshua did it. He left nothing undone of all that Yahweh commanded Moses. So this is turning into a second ceremony, like the one in Exodus, where they went to Mount of the laws, where Moses walked up and got the laws. But before Moses got down, this wedding engagement party was broken up by revelry and so forth. Sin. Not following instructions, not given the simple instructions they were to give, and they quickly forgot about it because Moses was just gone too long. You know, he was gone for 40 days, and that was just. I mean, they gave up before the 40 days. So here we go again. They're to do everything they're supposed to do. They are the people Israel. They are in the land of Israel, and these boundaries are noted throughout the book of Joshua. And it's lots of reading of all the dates and times and locations and cities and kings and who's in charge of what, and north and south and east and west of Jerusalem. All this is in there. And in verse 18, it says Joshua waged war against all these kings for a long time. Now, there was kings surrounding them, and the five kings and the stories of all what goes on there. I made a note. I said, as we read, this was the first exodus back to the promised land. No heaven on earth yet, not in that land, for they had to do battle for many, many years. The second so-called exodus has been called in the 1948 return, World War II. I disagree with that in a great amount of it, because the people that came were kind of like the Babylon thing. There was a remnant came back. Most of the people stayed in Europe, and most of the people in Russia stayed in Russia. Ashkenazis, that original family, you know, the Ashkenazis are call themselves Jewish. They're not. First of all, a person of Judah believes in the Father. They don't. Most of the Ashkenazis are atheists. And the Ashkenaz family, if you go back in the Word here, where we have read, they were mentioned in there. They were long before the 12 tribes. So they're not part of the 12 tribes, but they're claiming to be of Judah, because they're in the northern area, the Caspian, the White Russia, the northern areas of Russia, Bulgaria, Poland, and so forth. And they migrated into Germany, and thus the problems came for World War II, because you have, as I've seen, you have people who were originally there that lived around the Danube, the river of the Ube of Dan, tribes of Dan, and they were very much disconnected through family ties to that of their brothers and sisters of Judah. And so we see a little problem here, don't we? Oh, these evil people killing the innocent Jewish people. Well, the problem was you have the Jewish people that were various types besides being atheist, and they were not into deism, or they were not into Lutheran and Catholic like the Germans were. So there's some big problems, and the financial bit really got them upset. And so we have a World War II as a result of that. Isn't that interesting? And this kind of stuff with Ashkenazis and neo-fascism and communism today, socialism and left-wing extremism, it's all roaring back into reality again. And yet we're reading it right here. And so these wars continued. And it says after the return of World War II, they're claiming that they became a nation on that day. Really? Oh, we'll see about that. They are still not seeing heaven on earth yet, because they've been fighting ever since the return, and that's in this book, and that's still now. And please And please note that there is evidence that there are only a few Jews returned from the tribe of Judah. Many Jews today are hidden in the Catholic faith. I mean, any kind of science book, history book, any kind of record book that you have of people in the days of the Inquisitions and pogroms and holocausts. There have been more than one Nazi Holocaust. There have been many types of Holocausts from different countries. There have been pogroms all over Poland, Russia, constant suppression of people of the faith of Ashkenazi, unfortunately, atheism, and that of Judaism, which clashes into Christianity. And then a Catholic faith with Isabella and Ferdinand running them out of their country. Either I will kill you, I will destroy you, or I'm going to mess you up. And so 1492 is not the day that Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 1492 was the year of the Inquisition that continued on, in which they ran the Jews out of a number of lands. King Edward Longshanks I did the same thing. And that's just those two countries alone. So if you wanted to remain in the country, you had to become a Catholic faith, or else you lost. Many of them left. Many of them simply lied and say, I am Catholic. And they every year in the fall, they would build arbors, and they're seen all over Europe, especially in Spain and France, these arbors, and they call them grape arbors. Well, they're not grape arbors, folks. They're Sukkots. Right in front of the Catholics' faces, they built Sukkots, and they followed their Judaism. And to me, it's a crack up, because all the geniuses out there who think they know everything, they are so wrong. It's right in front of them. I said also, but still, many returning from North Russia, mixed races, claiming to be Jewish and yet atheist in thought. Indeed, the return of all Israel, including Judah, the Jews, has not taken place and will not take place. And it is the Jews that will not start the country going. It is Israel, and Israel is the 12 tribes. It's hard to get it through all these bonehead people who have told lies for years and years and years and put them in books. And you can't compete against that stuff. When we hear and obey, and we make Judah jealous as a result of it, then they will return to the Father, and they will acknowledge and repent to the Son, and through Yeshua, who was the Messiah and will be always the Messiah. Their Messiah is not a new one. It is our Messiah. But when they recognize it, then the 12 tribes will become one. The two sticks will become one. And there you go. In a nutshell, it's all right there in the book of Joshua for us to look at. So then I notice as we go through the pages, chapter 12, 13, 14, we got all the kings, and it really lays out the land of what will be set forth, not now, because Israel is just a peon of a country. In fact, it's not a country. By Lord Balfour's declaration, it is a state. And by United Nations and the League of Nations, it is a state. It is not a country. And there's a big difference of what you can do as a country, sovereign, and what you could do as a state, not sovereign. Okay? That's huge. You need to understand the legalities of what I just said. So this land that's being described here in the book of Joshua, it is huge. It goes from the Euphrates River to the River Egypt, to the Nile, the Sinai, the Arabah, Syria, Jordan, northern Arabah, which would be all the way up to and Lebanon, and Iraq, half of Iraq. That is the land of Israel. Okay, so no, Israel is not back in the land yet because they don't have the land. It's going to happen. That's what Joshua is all laying out here. So what has happened with Joshua? Is it completed? No, it's not complete. Is it going to be complete? Yes. And are they having problems in Joshua all the way through it? Now we're up to chapter 24. We're still in chapter 24. They have to fight for everything they want. Life is not perfect for them. Is it going to be perfect in the millennium? No. When we end Joshua here, do they get all the land that they're supposed to be in? No. But are the land that they have captured, the land they have taken, um, do they get, does it go smoothly for them? No. But things go well, much better off. The fighting stops. So in the millennium, the fighting will stop in the land of Israel. It will stop. It's over with. It's over. The rest of the world, well, there'll be problems for a millennium with Yeshua saying you don't do what you're supposed to do. The water won't fall, the rains won't fall, you're not going to have good crops, pestilence and famine, things are going to go wrong. Absolutely. It is not a heaven on earth like we're told in hundreds of name it and claim it happy churches. Wrong. And no, Mr. Jewish person, Mr. Orthodox Messianic person who does not believe in the Messiah. They believe in a Messiah, but not the Messiah. You're wrong too. What do you say? Actually, you don't say much because why? Because you have to lie through your teeth. What is it you could tell the Christians today that you believe? Well, here's what they believe. They believe that they will take over the world, the Jews, the tribe of Judah, not the rest of the tribes, and not the rest of the world. And you will serve them as slaves on this earth, And they do not believe in a final heaven. They do not believe in that. They do not believe in a God, Yahweh, because they don't follow his son, and they don't believe in a Satan, an evil entity. They believe people are evil, but they don't believe that there's an actual evil entity, and they don't believe in the Ruach HaKodesh. They don't believe in a Holy Ghost. They don't, no matter what they say. Most of the time, they don't lie. They just don't tell you the truth. There's the problem. Which is worse? Someone tells you a big lie in which you know it's obvious, because it's easy. You can live with someone that tells you a big lie because you know they're a liar. What's worse is when they tell you nothing and they fill it full of other nonsense and convince you to leave them alone so they can do what they want. Those are the dangerous people. Very dangerous people. Wickedly dangerous. Verse 24 in chapter 24. And the people said to Joshua, we will serve Yahweh our Elohim and obey him. So there's the promise again. Remember, it happened here in Exodus 14 through 19, and then they broke the engagement. Here they're saying it again. This time, they're in the land. They're doing what they're supposed to be, and they're supposed to continue it. Now, they've already let some evil things in through the back door. They didn't close the door. There were some people that were supposed to get rid of. There were some animals they were supposed to get rid of. There were some DNA defects that they were supposed to get rid of so it doesn't infect them. And they were supposed to stick to their own lineage and not mixed races. And it's supposed to keep the faith and hear and obey. Hear and obey Yeshua, salvation. And did they? No, but they're doing a lot of good things, but they're not perfect. So do things go well? The answer is, this is a wedding supper of the Lamb. With this bride, they're trying to get it done, and it's not going to happen. Yahweh knows that. It's like a clock, if I can explain it. So we have a clock that's from 12 noon to the following 12. So let's start. The first thing that goes on with these people is they come in the land and they did evil. That's at 1 o'clock in the morning. At 2 o'clock in the morning, they forsook Yahweh. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they followed their own pleasures, their own way as they saw fit in their own eyes. At 4 o'clock in the morning, they sold themselves into some form of slavery, depressions, and war. At 5 o'clock in the morning, they became a slave to something. At 6 a.m., they became servitudes as a result of it. At 7 o'clock, they finally woke up, literally. They cried out to Yahweh. So at 8 o'clock, they turned back to Yahweh. They repented. That's at 9 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, the judges rise up to judge them. At 11 o'clock, they were delivered. At noon, the nation served Yahweh, and everything is really great. Here we are ending the book of Joshua. At 12:01, they fell back into sin. The cycles repeated and repeated and repeated. Today, the importance of reading the book of Judges coming up is to understand that there is nothing new under the sun. We also do much the same today. It's a good learning lesson. Shalom.